and welcome to week 5 of my Beachcombing Blanket crochet along. I'm Eleonora, the designer behind Coastal Crochet, and all the details about this blanket can be found over on my blog. The links are in the description below. I've broken the tutorials down into smaller segments, so if you want help with the entire square then do watch the tutorials in order, but if it's a particular round that you need help with then I've listed all the tutorials in order over on my YouTube channel. Remember that I use UK crochet terminology. I do try to translate into US as we go along. And also remember to have the written pattern next to you when we work through these tutorials, because they're not designed to replace the written pattern but just to help make sense of them as we go through. So moving on to round 7, it tells us to join yarn C into any corner chain space. So just join yarn C into any corner, and then it tells us to make 3 chain, and that counts as 1 double crochet, US single crochet, plus 2 chain. So you might want to put a stitch marker in this beginning chain because that's where we're going to be slip stitching into at the end of this round, and just makes it a little bit clearer to see. And now we do 1 double crochet, US single crochet into the same corner chain space, and we've created our first corner. And now looking at the pattern, it tells us to do 1 double crochet, US single crochet into the next stitch. So that's the first stitch of the side. And now we're going to be making bobbles. So round 7 is a bobble round, and we're going to be making these exactly the same as we did in week 3. We had the bobbles with the fishing nets and the fishing buoys square from week 3. So looking at the pattern, it says 1 bobble with yarn F in the next stitch. So yarn F for me is the green coloured yarn, and we're going to be making a bobble into this next stitch. So let your main yarn just go to the back of the work. You don't want to crochet around that, so let that one go. And if you look at the pattern, look at the abbreviation where it says bobble, and it gives us the instructions, and it tells us to complete all the following in the same stitch. So with contrasting colour yarn, yarn over hook. So just because it's the first time we're doing this, just place it over the hook, and you might just have to secure it with your finger to stop it slipping off. And now insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull contrasting colour through to the front. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops. There we go. And now it tells us to repeat from star 4 times. So if you look at the pattern, go back to where the star is, yarn over hook, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over hook, pull through to the front, yarn over hook and pull through 2. So we've repeated it once. We'll do that again, yarn over hook, insert into stitch, yarn over hook, pull through to the front, yarn over hook and pull through 2. So you've repeated that twice. And again, yarn over hook, insert into stitch, yarn over hook, pull through to the front, yarn over hook and pull through 2. So we've repeated that now 3 times. Final repeat, so yarn over hook, insert into the stitch, yarn over hook, pull through to the front, yarn over hook and pull through 2. So we've repeated from star 4 times in total now, or 4 times more, and we should now have 5 contrasting coloured loops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 original colour loop on the hook. And now what we do is we let that contrasting colour go. The back of the work, we now pick up the main colour, and then with the main colour, yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook. And then what we do is give it a little bit of a pull, give that contrasting colour a pull, and then when we make our first stitch we do it quite tightly and push the bobble towards you. So looking at the pattern now, it says 1 double crochet, US single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So, and this is where we need to do it quite tight to really anchor that bobble down. Oh, and I also forgot, what we're going to be doing now is crocheting around the contrasting colour, because that's the way it just goes behind the work really neatly, and then it's ready to make the next bobble. So 1 double crochet, US single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, remembering to crochet around that contrasting colour. So that's 1, so you can push that bobble through to the front. That's 2, and that's 3. And then just hold the bobble and just pull that contrasting colour quite tightly to really neaten that bobble. And that's what it looks like at the back. And then looking at the pattern, it now tells us to do 1 bobble with yarn F in the next stitch. And obviously yarn F is now in a much better position. It's already secured into the work. So let the main colour go. Grab yarn F, the contrasting colour, and go back to the instructions for bobble. So yarn over hook, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over hook, pull through to the front, yarn over hook and pull through 2 loops, and repeat that 4 times more. That's once, that's 2 times, 3 times, and that's 4 times. So if we repeated from star 4 times more, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 contrasting colours, 1 main colour, let the contrasting colour go, grab your main colour again, yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook, give that little contrasting colour a tug, and then it's 1 double crochet, US single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches again, because we've got some work in brackets. So going back to the beginning of the brackets, and remember to crochet around that contrasting coloured yarn. That's 1, that's 2, and that's 3. You can see my bobble needs pushing to the front, and then pull that contrasting colour to really secure it and get that bobble to protrude and sit nicely to the front of the work. And so repeat everything that's in the brackets 3 times in total. So I've repeated everything in the brackets 3 times in total. And so now looking at the pattern, it tells us to do 1 double crochet, US single crochet in the final stitch of the side. And you can see there's just the 1 final stitch to go into. We're going to keep going around that contrasting colour. And there we go, that's the end of the side. Then looking at the pattern, we now in the corner chain space do 1 double crochet, that's US single crochet, 2 chain, and then a further double crochet, US single crochet. And now looking at the pattern, it tells us to repeat from star 3 times, ending final repeat at star star. So go back to where the star is towards the beginning of the round. It's 1 double crochet, US single crochet into the next stitch, and then it's a bobble in the next stitch, and then we've got our repeats in the brackets to the end. So we're repeating everything we did on this side on the next 3 sides going around. So I've just completed my final bobble on the final side, and then we're just doing the 1 double crochet, US single crochet in the final stitch of the side. And now I'm at star star, and so we slip stitch to the first chain of the beginning 3 chain. So that's here, that's the first chain that I made here, slip stitch into that first chain, going under both strands. There we go. Work your slip stitch and then fasten off. And there we have the end of round 7. So we'll have 17 stitches on each side, and that includes the 4 bobbles. So there's 4 bobbles on each side. And then we can now move on to round 8. So round 8 tells us to join with yarn B in any corner chain space. So insert your hook into any corner chain space and join with yarn B. And round 8 is a simple round of treble US double crochet stitches. So we start with 3 chain, counts as our first treble US double crochet, and then complete the corner as we have with so many of our rounds throughout this blanket, with 1 further treble US double crochet, 2 chain, and then a further 2 treble US double crochet. And so there we've created the first corner of this round. And then we simply work 1 treble or US double crochet into each stitch around. Just make sure that when you get to the bobble that you're crocheting into the top of that bobble as well. So I'll show you when we get there. It's just this little tighter stitch that sits across the top of that bobble. Slightly trickier to get your hook under that stitch because we've done it quite tight when we were securing the bobbles in the round below, but just make sure that you do crochet into that stitch going around, and just continue with 1 treble US double crochet in each stitch around, and then in the corners we're doing the 2 treble, 2 chain, 2 treble US double crochet stitches, and do this all the way around. So I've come to the end of round 8 and I've slip stitched the top of the beginning 3 chain, but we don't fasten off, we keep yarn B attached. But here's what it's looking like at the end of round 8, and we should have 21 stitches on each side. So moving on to round 9, this is going to be another bobble round. So if we look at the pattern, it tells us to make 1 chain, and this will count as the first double crochet US single crochet stitch of this round. So you might want to put a stitch marker in there because it's not always that easy to see. So we've made 1 chain, and then if you look at the pattern, it tells us to do 1 double crochet US single crochet into the next stitch. So you can see there's the next stitch along. Just work an ordinary double crochet US single crochet into that stitch, which brings us up to the corner. And looking at the pattern, we now do 1 double crochet US single crochet, 2 chain, and then a further double crochet US single crochet into that corner chain space. And now we're ready to go on to the next side. And so looking at the pattern, it's 1 double crochet US single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So there's the first stitch of the side, that's 1, and then that's 2. And now looking at the pattern, it tells us to do 1 bobble with yarn D in the next stitch. And my yarn D is this lovely rich blue colour, and so we're going to make our bobbles just like we did in round 7. So looking at the instructions in the pattern, it's yarn over hook with your contrasting colour. So just place the yarn over the hook, and on this very first bobble we have to secure that with our finger and let the main colour just drop behind, and then arrange the contrasting colour in your hand, and then insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull contrasting colour through to the front, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Now repeat from start 4 times, so go back to where the star is in the instructions, yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull contrasting colour through, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. I've repeated it once, yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull contrasting yarn through to the front, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. I've repeated it twice, yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull contrasting colour through to the front, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Repeated it 3 times, got 1 more time to repeat it, yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull contrasting colour through to the front, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And you should now have 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 contrasting coloured loops on the hook and 1 original main colour loop on the hook. let the contrasting colour go and then grab your original colour, the main colour that you were working with, yarn over and pull that through all the loops on the hook, and that's the first bubble made. Give it a little tug, give that contrasting colour a tug, and now we're going to be going around that contrasting colour as we do the next stitches. And remember to do this first stitch quite tight so that it really secures that bubble in place and helps it protrude. So looking at the pattern, we now do 1 double crochet, US single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3. Push that bubble to the front and then give that yarn a good tug to really help it protrude and stay fixed to the front. And now looking at the pattern, it tells us to do 1 bubble with yarn D in the next stitch. So let the main colour go, get your yarn D, which is now in a much better position on this second bubble, and then just repeat all the instructions for bubble in the next stitch. Give that contrasting colour a nice little tug. And now looking at the pattern, everything was in the brackets, so everything in the brackets we're doing 4 times in total. So go back to the start of the brackets where we're doing 1 double crochet, US single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, 2 and 3, and now we do a bubble with yarn D in the next stitch. But just hold that bubble and give your contrasting colour a tug to really help neaten and secure that bubble. And there we go. So repeat that 4 times, everything in the brackets you repeat 4 times to the end of the side. Just repeated everything in the brackets 4 times, just done the final bubble. And now looking at the pattern, it tells us to do 1 double crochet, US single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. Remember to carry on crocheting around that contrasting colour so it comes neatly along the work with us. So there we go, I've done those 2 double crochet, single crochets, and now it's 1 double crochet, US single crochet, 2 chain, and then a further double crochet, US single crochet, all into that corner chain space. And so now we're ready to go on to our next side. So looking at the pattern, it tells us to do to repeat from start 3 times. So go back to where the star is, and it's 1 double crochet, US single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. That's 1 and that's 2. Give that contrasting colour a little pull, not too tight because you don't want it to sort of pucker the work, but just so it sits nice and neatly behind. And now we're ready to do our first bubble of this next side. So repeat everything that we did on this first side on the next 3 sides and give that a tug. Now, because this is the final repeat on the final side, if you look at the pattern, it says you end final repeat at star star, and that's where we are now because we started with yarn B, so we started before we got to this corner chain space. So we've come to the end of the round, and actually our first stitch the first chain that we made, which counted as our first stitch, that's now where we need to make a slip stitch into to close the round. And it can be quite easy to miss because obviously we're using these shorter double crochet US single crochet stitches. So if you have a look, there you can see is the beginning chain, that first chain we made at the start of the round, which counted as our first double crochet US single crochet stitch. So go under both strands of that beginning chain. That's why it's sometimes helpful to use a stitch marker to mark that chain. Just helps beginners to really see where it is we need to be crocheting into, and then work a slip stitch. And that's the end of round 9, and we fasten off. So I fastened off, and now at the end of round 9 we should have 5 bobbles, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on each side, and including those bobbles plus the stitches in between, there should be 23 stitches in total. And there we go, representing those flashes of beautiful green and blue sea glass that we can find when we're beachcombing. And so now we can move on to round 10. And round 10 tells us to join with yarn C into any corner chain space. Now remember that the corner chain spaces aren't these big ones that we did in round 8, it's the smaller corner chain spaces that we've just done in round 9. So insert your hook into the corner chain space and join with yarn C. And if you look at the pattern, round 10, it actually tells us to repeat round 8. So repeat that now for round 10. So go back to the instructions for round 8, 3 chain at the start, and then 1 treble, US double crochet, 2 chain, and then a further 2 treble, US double crochet to start, and then simply 1 treble or US double crochet in each stitch around. And so here I am at the end of round 10, just fastened off an ordinary round of treble US double crochet stitches, and this is what the work is now looking like. And we can move on to round 11. The next rounds can be found on the following tutorials, which are all over on my YouTube channel. Hope you found this useful, and thanks for watching.